Hi, welcome to this masterclass. And for this episode, we're now going to discuss the stabilizers that we're using during the wedding day. Now, if you are asking us, what are the things that we are using to get the shot that we're aiming for, we're using the basic stuff. Again, just like what I've mentioned with the previous episode, the equipment that we're using are those equipment that will enable us to be mobile, lightweight, and can go around the wedding reception or wedding ceremony for us to capture those raw emotions. Now, we're going to start first with the essential equipment for our stabilizer, which is the head of either the tripod or monopod. Now, if you're considering of buying a tripod, most of the time, the tripod or monopod doesn't come with a head. Now, our head that we're using is a fluid drag system head. Usually, you can buy that with Manfrotto or other brands. But what we're using is a Manfrotto fluid drag system that is very, as we call it, fluid, very easy to use, and been helping us with a lot of shoots, especially out of the country. Now, the advantage of the fluid drag system compared to a ball head is that the ball head has the tendency to be loose even though you tightened it. And the fluid drag system allows us to be more precise with the angles that we would want to achieve since it doesn't move around or it doesn't go around. However, with the ball system, more angles are covered. But we prefer the fluid drag system because, again, just like what I mentioned a while ago, it is more precise when it comes to the angles that we're aiming for. And at the same time, it allows us to move or to capture those scenes that we are envisioning. Later, I'll show you how we're utilizing the tripod with the fluid drag system. Now, the head, of course, it comes with the pairing of either a tripod or a monopod. Now, there are questions which is better to use. Now, just like what I've always mentioning a while ago, we are utilizing equipment that allows us to be mobile, especially out of the country. And the monopod is the obvious choice because, again, it's lighter compared to the tripod. Well, both of them are light because both of them are carbon fiber from Manfrotto. However, personally, what I'm choosing is always a tripod. I'm always in charge of the audio, and at the same time, out of the country, we are utilizing shots that will capture the environment. So, establishing shots. So, aside from the drone, aside from the crane or the gimbal, we use the traditional tripod to capture the scenery of the place that we are in or we are at. Now, what I always tell to our videographers is that once you deploy the tripod, you always deploy it first with the first leg, not the second. Because if you deploy the first leg, it's easier to retract it and carry it compared to if it's in the second. Because the level of each part of the leg has a different height. So there's a tendency that you might have a different balance for your tripod. So I recommend that you first deploy the first part of each leg because it's easier. Now, one of the reasons why I also choose the tripod over the monopod is that I can make this as a monopod. So I just retract one leg. I can use this as a monopod. Now, one of the technique that I'm also using with this is that the handle here is what I use to put it under my arm and make it as my control part for the tripod so that I can focus more with the camera. Okay? The same with the tripod if it's deployed. I'm using my armpit to control it and to make my two hands more useful for the camera to control the change of the focus and at the same time the control for the settings. So as you can see, since it's a fluid drag system, I can manipulate, I can control which direction the head is going, okay? So at the end of the day, it really depends on you of what you're going to utilize, either a monopod or a tripod. But for me, what I'm utilizing, since I'm in charge most of the time with the audio, I'm using a tripod, okay? So aside from the panning, the cinematic panning and tilt, what I can do is that I can attach the camera over here and achieve the swivel effect for the detail, okay? We don't usually use the slider anymore during shoots, but if you want to utilize a slider, we are using the quick release plate in the tripod. Yeah, I hope you can see that. So we're using the quick release so that once we detach it, we attach the same plate with the slider and attach it here so that we have more control and we have more freedom on the creativity that we can utilize with it that I cannot do with a monopod. Now, those are the basic stuff that we're using for the traditional stabilizers, the tripod and the monopod. Now, if you are more into the creative side of shooting, we are also utilizing the crane. However, because of the technology, we are now using different methods in getting that crane effect. And later on, we will discuss that. Another part of the creative shots that we're after is that we're utilizing this gimbal from DJI called Ronin. Now, the DJI Ronin enables us to emulate the crane shot and to have a more precise and more smooth gliding effect that we are after during the wedding day. However, the setup time for this may take up good 5 to 10 minutes because you have to balance it, you have to arrange the alignment of the lens in the body, and make sure that if you are using this, make sure that you're using a lens that is not really that heavy. Usually 16 to 35, we attach it to our camera and we balance it here. Okay. Now, with the advent of technology, that large gimbal has a smaller version, which is now a handheld gimbal. Now, this one in particular is from Xeon, and this handheld gimbal allows our videographers who are not even, as we call, glider, can now do glide shots and be more creative and more mobile and more free in moving around. Okay? The disadvantage of this one is that compared to the DJI Ronin, the handheld gimbal from Xeon is that you are limited with the size of the camera and the weight of the lens. So you have to correlate those two. Now, I know that Xeon released a gimbal specifically for full-frame cameras. However, it supports only those lenses that are lightweight. Sometimes it cannot fight the weight and the balancing of the lens. So those are the things that you have to consider. Here in the Philippines, we are using lightweight camera so that we can utilize the handheld gimbal compared to the larger gimbal of DJI Ronin. You should always think which is you're going to utilize. A DJI Ronin with a full frame camera, which is, it takes more time to set up, or a handheld gimbal from Xeon in particular, which you can always utilize a camera that is lightweight and which is not full frame. For example, a A6300 from Sony. So you always have to consider the things that you're going to use. Now, as of the moment, we're very happy with the performance of the A6300 attached to a handheld gimbal. However, if you are going to show it in 4K, there are some discrepancies in the quality. But if you are after some fast cuts for your wedding video as a videographer, then it might work as well. Now, there are some instances that your Xeon ran out of battery and you don't have a DJI Ronin with you, or vice versa. Then you should always go back to the traditional GlideCam HD 4000. Now, I remember when I was starting in Bayan Studios that one of the hardest training that I encountered is using this equipment, because you have to really have the balance of the camera, the lens, and the stabilizer. It always takes me a good 10 to 15 minutes to really achieve that zero drop time. At the end of the day, it really depends on how you're going to fight the gravity with the GlideCam. It really depends on how are you going to use it. There are some people that handling it like this, but I developed this habit since most of the time I cannot balance it 100% to, from left to right and then the center of the gravity. So I'm using this kind of handle so that I have more control and I have more precision in where I want the GlideCam to point at. As you can notice, we're all only using one weight for each side because it is faster that we extend the length of the GlideCam compared to adding weight and wearing a vest. You know, since here in the Philippines, we are a tropical country and it's hot, it's not really recommended to wear a vest. Once we tried it, Bayan invested with the vest, but it doesn't work out that well because it takes more time to wear it, to set up it. And that is the reason why we developed this habit of really improving our skill with the GlideCam. Now, if you're going to ask me, should I go straight to a handheld gimbal or a DJI Ronin? The answer is it really depends. But as a videographer, I would really want to improve my skill of using this kind of equipment first before jumping to the digital equipment. Okay? So it's really important you develop that kind of skill, especially if you're using a tripod or monopod or this GlideCam. And then once you have that skill and you also improve your vision on how you're going to implement it, maybe that's a time that you can jump into the digital equipment of stabilizers. Okay? Now, these are the stabilizers that we are utilizing for the wedding day. There are other equipment out there that you can utilize, like digital or automated sliders, automated head of a tripod. There's a lot. But at the end of the day, when you have the shoot outside the city or in a province and you don't have an access to those kind of equipment, if there are problems with your digital equipment, it's always good to have a backup plan. It's always good to have a knowledge or skill in utilizing this kind of equipment on how you're going to maximize them.
What if you were put in a situation where you left all your equipment, like all your tripods, your monopods, and especially your gliders? How would you stabilize your shots using handheld only?
Okay. Now, that's a very good question and point to raise. However, I can't remember the last time that we left our equipment in the airport or in the office. However, if the glide cam, the monopod or the tripod is not available, then I think you can use the strap of the camera. I think I have one here. So you can utilize this as your stabilizer. So you can just wrap it, like for example, this is your camera, and then you can just, the tension between the strap and your neck, just use it. So for example, if you're walking, then you can use, don't force your shot, okay? Don't force it, and don't make it like a handheld. Just let it flow and let it appear as if it's a handheld shot. Not force it, like make a motion. Just it should go with the flow. So if you're walking and like that, so basically it's emulating already a handheld shot. So it takes time, it takes practice to achieve that kind of natural handheld look. But if you don't have any monopod, tripod, or glide cam, you can use the strap. You know what? Most of the time we're utilizing this, especially if we are on a rush, and if you want to get that shot that we're after, especially if it's a walk of the bride, if it's an emotion of the groom crying upon entering. Upon the entrance of the bride, we use the strap so that we can go we can go fast to capture that moment. I hope I answered your question with the strap. Okay, next question.
When using a glide cam, do you have to practice it beforehand? Well, before the actual shoot, do you have to practice and train if you won't trip or fall or shake?
Now, if you're asking me if we practice before the actual shot, yes. And if it's rocky, then yes, we're confident that we can pull it off because of the training that we have with Maya Studios. However, it's also better that you have another person, for example, a production assistant, that will assist you behind your back, so that that person will notify you, okay, there's a deep hole or there are a lot of rocks, so that you'll be guided and you will not trip. Okay? But most of the time, our videographers are trained to have an instinct to, of course, prioritize safety and to capture that moment. So it goes hand in hand, the safetiness and the creativity of our videographers. So, I hope I answered your questions convincingly, and I do hope that you watching this garnered a lot of knowledge when it comes to the equipment that we're maximizing and utilizing during the wedding day. And I hope to see you on the next episode.